I made a mistake. I tried to ask you all on Twitter which commander I should cover next. I sourced the commanders of this choice out of my comment section and then threw them all onto Twitter. And, y'all voted for Ragadraga. Y'all voted for Ragadraga. And I don't know why y'all voted for Ragadraga. Other than that it was the funniest word, according to Vice Rhino. So that was the reason that they decided to click Ragadraga. So, okay, guys, I guess we're talking about Ragadraga, the Gore Guts boss. So what are we trying to do with Ragadraga? Well, Ragadraga, Gorgut's boss, is a Gruul commander who says that every creature you have with a mana ability gets +2/2. A mana ability is just any ability that produces mana. So that gives you your guideline for what we're going to be doing. Anytime a creature with a mana ability attacks, we untap it, and if we cast a spell with at least 7 mana being spent to cast it, we get to untap a creature and give it 7/7 and trample until end of turn. So, the strategy is going to be put many Mana Dork on board. Make many Mana Dork turn sideways. Mana Dork turn sideways, Mana Dork turn back up, because Ragadraga says turn sideways for what? That was a bad joke. Just ignore the words that came out of my mouth. None of the words that I say mean anything. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we are going to be doing for the deck. The most important part of the deck is obviously the 30 card deep ramp package, because the bulk of the deck is mana producing creatures. So let's take a look at this just massive package of ramping creatures. Holy shit. Oh my god. Start out with Woe's Pathfinder. Add a mana of any color. Pay 7 mana to tap it and give a creature 3/3 and trample till end of turn. Root Rider Fawn. Add a green mana. The other part doesn't matter. Werebear, add a green mana, give it 3/3 if there are 7 or more cards in our graveyard. Leaf Gilder, add a green mana. Deathbloom Gardener, add 1 mana of any color, and also it's got Death Touch. Mer Convert, add a mana of any color by paying 2 life. It also has Toxic. That will never be relevant, but you get to make fun of people when they get afraid of Infect. Druid of the Cowl can tap for a mana. Leafkin Druid can tap for a mana or 2 mana if there's lots of creatures on the board. Rada Heir to Keld taps for green mana or gives you 2 extra red mana whenever you attack. Paradise Druid has hexproof as long as it's untapped, but otherwise can just tap for mana of any color. Dragonic Disciple can tap for any mana of any color and make a 5/5 red dragon creature token of flying if you sack it. We're probably never going to sack it because it's already going to be a 4/4 while our creature's on the board. Whisper of the Wilds, tap for green or tap for 2 green if we have a creature with power 4 or greater. So like if Draconic Disciple's on the board and our commander's on the board, it's a 4/4 automatically. So Whisper of the Wild is giving us all our stuff. Leafkin Avenger can tap for a green for each creature we control with power 4 or greater, including itself. And then we can pay 8 mana to deal damage equal to its power to target player or planeswalker. This is one of our funny ways of closing out a game, because we can make Leafkin Avenger get 7 extra power with our commander and then just start nuking people for 10 to 12 damage with it. It's kind of a nutty card given what our deck is doing. Then we have Ruby the Daring Tracker. It gives you red or green mana. It even has haste. And if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, it gets 2/2 until end of turn. So that's, you know, we're almost always going to have that. Then we have the Reclusive Taxidermist. It gets 3/2 as long as there are 4 more creatures in the graveyard. It also adds a mana of any color. The Elysian Cartelid, Carated, I don't know how to pronounce it. Add a mana of any color. If you have a creature with power 4 or more, add 2 of them. Armored Scrap Gorger. This is one of our nice utility cards. Add a mana of any color. Whenever it becomes tapped, exile a card from a graveyard and put an oil counter on it. At 3 oil counters, it gains 3/0. We're primarily using this because we need ways to interact with the graveyard, because reanimation players need to be kept honest. Then we have Copper Myr. I'd like to run both Myrs, but one of them is more expensive than the other for some weird reason. Add a green mana to our mana pool with the Myr. Then we have Rishkar Prima Promenade. It comes into the battlefield, puts a 1/1 counter on at least 2 creatures, and then you can tap those creatures for mana at any point. So this gives creatures that otherwise wouldn't have mana abilities. So Rishkar can actually give, as an example of what we can do, Rishkar comes into play. It gives our commander, Ragadraga, a 1/1 counter. Now our commander has a mana ability. Now our commander is a 6/6, and if we spend 7 mana on something, our commander goes from a 6/6 to a 13/13 with trample, not counting any other ways we have of boosting its power. Now we are starting to threaten people with commander damage with our creatures, which is honestly perfectly fine by me. And then we have the Zerta Druid, add a mana of any color, and then it deals the damage to each opponent whenever we do. Ornithopter of Paradise, a flyer that adds a mana of any color. Quirion Elves that adds a mana of basically any color, because we choose red whenever it comes into play as well. Then we have Land of War Visionary, draws us a card when it comes out, adds green mana. Growth Spasm, searches our library for a basic land, but then makes us have an Eldrazi spawn token, who, by the way, has a mana ability attached to it. Isn't that neat? Land of War Elves, the oldest, the classic, the wonderful boy, adds a green mana. Poison Dart Frog, the cutest mana dork in the entire deck. We can make it gain Death Touch, so nobody wants to block it. It also adds a mana of any color. Tangled Floahedron adds green mana. It also can be a land whenever we need it to in the backside. Intrepid Paleontologist, my favorite mana dork of 2023. Or the Intrepid Paleontologist says, add a mana of any color or pay 2, exile a card from any person's graveyard. You can cast dinosaur creature spells from among those exiled with it if you want, but we're really just doing this so we have a creature that's a mana dork that lets us exile cards from a graveyard, because I swear to God, reanimation players cheat. Anyway, Leyline of Abundance, all of our mana dorks tap for an additional 1. We can also pay 8 to give a 1/1 counter on all of our creatures. It's also a Leyline, so if we have it in the opening hand, we just play it for free. And then the Horizon Stone, oh, this thing's kind of busted in this deck. If we would lose any unspent mana, that mana becomes colorless instead. You'll see why that matters. We are stockpiling mana so we can drop bombs on people, but we will talk about that in a second. As always, whenever you are building a deck, there are 2 main things your deck needs to be able to do besides ramp. It needs to be able to interact with people. It needs to be able to draw cards. That's over and above whatever synergies your deck has. So let's talk about removing our opponent's cards from the board. We get access to some unique cards this time. Of course, we have Naturalize, destroy an artifact or enchantment, and then we have my boy, my friend, it's Meteor Golem, everybody! Meteor Golem! Blow up any non-land card. It's also 7 mana, so we get the benefit of our commander's ability. Abrade lets us destroy any artifact or deal 3 damage to a creature. Return to Nature lets us either get rid of an artifact, enchantment, or cuck a reanimator player. Reclamation Sage lets us destroy an artifact or enchantment. Spine of Ishash is 7 mana as well! Oh, would you look at that? That's convenient. It then blows up any any permanent. It can blow up lands too. Cankerbloom can destroy an artifact creature or artifact enchantment, or it can proliferate us. So if we've got 1/1 counters on our stuff from some of our other cards, then this can just allow us to get that one little bit of extra damage. Scour from Existence, an instant that can exile any permanent at all. Yeah, this exists. This is a 7 mana, get rid of any type of permanent and do it via exile card. I didn't know this existed until I was building this deck, but now I know, and now you do too, and you should probably use that information wisely. Now we have Terastodon, an 8 mana, blow up any 3 target non-creature permanents and give people elephants for doing so, and then one of the funniest removal spells in the deck, Fanning the Flames. 2 red mana and X with buyback 3, so we pay 3 mana to put it back in our hand the minute we play it. Deal X damage to any creature or any player. We can use this to just ping a person repeatedly, or we could just go, hey, your commander has toughness of 3 or 4. I'm going to pay 1, 2 for my card, 3 for my buyback, so that's 5, and then I'm going to pay 4 more, so we're just going to pay 9 mana, which is easy because our deck is all freaking mana dorks. I'm going to blow up your card, and I'm going to keep my removal spell in my hand. No matter what card you play, I will always have the ability to get rid of it. You will never stop me from using this card unless you counterspell it. But otherwise, I'm just going to keep on fanning the flames, and your cards are going to be destroyed. And that's going to suck for you. I'm sorry. Life really blows for you. Not for me, though. But the next thing the deck needs to be able to do is draw us lots of cards, and we have a pretty robust draw engine here, actually. Let's take a look. We have the Jemedi Toe, pay 4 mana to draw a card with it. We have all mana dorks, so we, of course, can do that as many times as we want. Arcane Encyclopedia, pay 3 mana to draw a card. Again, super easy to do in this deck. Gilarna, it's a mana dork, but if we cast a card that costs 6 or greater, which we have plenty of those, we'll talk about them in a second, we get to draw a card. Garrick's Pack Leader. Anytime a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. Oh, by the way, that's almost every creature in our deck. If our commander's out, Garrick's Pack Leader just sees a bunch of 3/3 creatures touching the board. Then we have Harmonize to draw 3 cards, very, very basic. Primordial Sage, anytime we cast a creature spell, draw a card. Collective Unconscious, draw a card for every creature we control. It's a 40 creature deep deck, so we have plenty of those. Mouth and Feed. We get to make a hippo with Mouth, and then with Feed, we get to draw a card for every creature we have with power 3 or greater, which is basically all the cards in our deck because of our commander. Lifecrafter's Bestiary, anytime we go to our upkeep, scribe 1. Anytime we cast a creature spell, we get to pay 1 and draw a card. Yeah, this is kind of a nutty card with some of the stuff you'll see later. We're going to talk about that. And then we have Soul of the Harvest. It has Trample, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under our control, we get to draw a card. Now, I mentioned that the Lifecrafter's Bestiary can be kind of nutty. Here's why. So, when you play creatures, when they're all mana dorks, right? The perfect scenario is being able to use a mana dork to draw a card, to tap it, to play another mana dork from your hand. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's very, very simple. We have a haste package. Rising of the Day, all of our creatures gain haste. Legendary creatures get 1/0. So we can have something like Soul of the Harvest on the board, play a mana dork like our Werebear, and then it automatically has haste, so we can then use Werebear's mana after we draw its card to play another mana dork like our Leaf Gilder, and then of course after drawing our card, that Leaf Gilder has haste, so it can be used to play another mana dork, and another mana dork, and another mana dork, and another, and another, and another, and it just keeps on going. We also have Samet Tyrant Smasher. It can give a creature 2/1 and give us scrying, but primarily this is just going to be a way to have our creatures gain haste. Then we have Tuk Tuk Rubble Fort. All our creatures gain haste. And then we have the Vashino Lashclaw. We can discard a card to make all of our creatures gain haste. We have 4 ways of making sure that no matter what the situation, our creatures will be able to get in and hurt people. But how are we going to make them hurt people? So I already mentioned that we are going wide with creatures. They're going to be mana dorks. They're going to hit a little bit bigger because of our commander. Let's make them hit super big. We have a 10-card deep big mana spells section. The first big mana spell we have to get our commander's secondary ability is Strength of Tajuru. It has multi-kicker and X and green. Put X/1/1 counters on each creature we get with multi-kicker. So how this works is, let's say you pay 5 mana into the card initially, so you have 2 green and 3 for X. That's 3/1/1 counters on every creature that you want to put counters on. To get those counters on those creatures, you must pay multi-kicker for each one. Because all of our creatures are mana dorks, we just tap them for the multi-kicker, and each creature will pay for its own multi-kicker. Let me tell you why this card's busted as hell. Ragadraga says, untap our creatures when they swing. Here's what we do. We have all of our mana dorks, right? All these guys right here, we say, I enter combat. The mana dorks all swing. They choose their people, the people they're going to attack. Before the declare blockers phase, they will untap. We have access to all of their mana because they are untapped attacking creatures. We then, because we have those untapped attacking creatures, we can then play Strength of Tajaru and just get its multi-kicker on everything and make our board just absolutely bonkers, badass, massive. And then if we happen to have our commander swinging as well, then we'll just go ahead and give him that big, beefy 7/7 and trample so we can delete a person with commander damage because we're just nice like that. That's why this card's busted in this deck. It's broken in this deck, and you need to just play it while goldfishing and math out how many counters you get on cards by like turn 8. It's kind of freaking stupid. Then we have Clan Defiance. We can choose one or more. Deal X damage to a creature with flying, deal X damage to a creature without flying, and deal X damage to a player or planeswalker. So this is basically us going, I'm going to sink all 30 of the mana I've made because I'm basically a mana-only deck. I'm going to sink all that mana into turning one player off by getting rid of their 2 biggest creatures, and the other player gets turned off because, well, it says choose one or more. I'm deleting a player from the game, and I'm deleting another player's creatures from the game. And then that's going to make my swinging phase much easier for me. Then we have Fall of the Titans. It's double X and red, or 1X and red if we cast it. If we or a teammate have cast another spell this turn, that's really easy for us to do because we have so many mana dorks. We're just going to play a mana dork, drop it on the board, and now we've got Fall of the Titans available. Deal X damage to each of 2 target creatures and or players. So here's what we're going to do with Fall of the Titans. Very, very simple. Ragadraga says, whenever a creature with a mana ability attacks, untap it. We are going to swing with our board of, say, 10 or 20 mana dorks. They're all going to swing at one person, and he's going to look at us like we're on cocaine, because why are we only swinging at him? Why are we only aiming all of our resources at him? How dare we eliminate him from the table and make him watch the rest of us play Magic the Gathering? No, my friend, no. Fall of the Titans is at instant speed. You're not going to be stuck watching us play Magic. You're going to be stuck helping us put all of our cards together so we can go get fucking pizza, because you're getting deleted by combat damage, and players 2 and 3 are getting deleted by sinking 20 or 30 mana into the Surge of Fall of the Titans, because as all of our creatures that are aimed at player 1 untap, we tap them again so that all of their mana gets turned into damage for player 2 and 3. Just... This deck is nutty, guys. I'm sorry. Then we have Hurricane. Deal X damage to every player and each creature with flying. If you've seen my other decks that have Hurricane in it, you know I adore this card. I love Green Fireball. Green Fireball's great. You don't care that it kills flyers. I mean, sure, it's cool to stop a dragon deck in its tracks, but the real reason you play this is so you can go, I swing all my creatures out. Oh, you guys aren't dead. Sorry, they untapped. I guess I tap all my creatures and burn everybody for 10 or 20 or 30. I'm sorry. Everybody dies. Then we have Enray's Forerunners, another bigger than 7 mana spell that gives all of our creatures Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. Now, the Vigilance doesn't matter to us too much because, you know, our creatures already untap with their abilities, but still, it is an extra 2 we get on everything, and it will trigger our commander's secondary ability. Then we have Reap the Past, which is very important for our deck. Return X cards at random from our graveyard to our hand. Now, why do we have this in the deck? One, it's a big mana spell. Super easy to activate with our commander's ability, but the main reason it's here is we are a go-wide deck. And I've made it known that when you are playing Magic the Gathering or when you're playing Commander, you need backup plans for when your board gets wiped. You need backup plans for when your commander gets deleted. So this is our backup plan, one of our backup plans. We get to just go, oh, our board got wiped. Well, that blew. I'm going to pay 10 mana. I'm going to get that board back into my hand. It's all mana dork, so I'm going to play it again here in a second. And, yeah, I'm set back a turn, but I'm not, like, upset or anything. Then we have Praetor's Council, another way of doing just that. It's another big mana spell. Return every card from our graveyard to our hand, and then exile Praetor's Council. We now have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. So if we're in the mid-game, we've got like 20, 30 cards in the graveyard because we've been board wiped a couple times. Play Praetor's Council, now suddenly we have a hand of 30, 40 cards. And we get to just look at everybody and go, okay, so I'm going to play all my mana dorks, and they're all going to have haste, so I'm just going to get my whole board back out, like, now? And if you guys are okay with that, we're just going to pretend that everything you did to board wipe me never fucking happened. If that's okay with all of you. Then we have Gigantomancer. This is another fun way we get to close out games. Not only is it a big 7 mana spell, or 8 mana spell, so it triggers our commander, we can pay 1 to make a creature become a 7/7 until end of turn. So, again, here's the strategy. Let's swing out against everybody with our mana dorks, and then, when they untap, we're going to tap them all again so that their base power and toughness become 7/7. Now, with just our commander, every mana dork we have is a 9/9. There is not much in Magic the Gathering that survives getting beat to death with 1,000 little druids that are 9/9s minimum. There are very few things that survive that. Then we have Genesis Wave, a big X cost spell that allows us to set up for a game-winning turn. Reveal the top X cards of our library. Put any number of permanent cards with mana value X or less onto the battlefield. We have mostly permanents in our deck. We have 2 enchantments, 9 artifacts, and we have 40 creatures. Only 17 of the cards in our deck are not permanents. This will get almost anything in our deck just right onto the board. Most of our cards are also low cost, so Genesis Wave is going to be perfectly fine getting those cards out. And remember, we've got Reap the Past and Praetor's Council. If we lose important cards to Genesis Wave, then it's not the end of the world. We have ways to get those back. And then finally, we have Outmaneuver, yet another way to just instantly win the game. Outmaneuver is an X-cost instant cast card. X-target blocked creatures deal their damage to defending players instead of to the blocking creatures. So they deal damage as if they were not blocked. So let's say we swing at everybody for lethal, and they're like, that's not lethal. You don't have flying. You're in green and red. I'm just going to block all your creatures. Haha, you lose your board. We go, yeah, we might lose the board, but y'all all lose the game. All of my creatures untap because of Ragadraga, and I'm gonna tap them all. For every creature you blocked our creatures with, they all just go through to your life points. That's game. The game's over. Everybody died. I don't know why you're still at the table. Please pack up. We're going to go get pizza. And then, like that, so that's the meat of the deck. That is really the meat of the deck. The last part is, yeah, it's very, very basic. We have our land section. We have some fetching lands, Evolving Wilds, Promising Vein, Terramorphic Expanse, Myriad Landscape, and then Naya Panorama. We have some dual lands in Game Trail, Mossfire Valley, and Command Tower. The two spicier lands we have, though, our Arc of Orazka. We are playing Gruul, which means we do have issues drawing cards. So this is one of our mana sinks. We can pay 5 mana to draw a card if we have the City's Blessing. We're in Commander. We'll get that pretty easily. So this is just a way to make sure that our hand is kept nice and healthy later in the game. And then I mentioned making our Commander big with its own ability. There's another strategy we have to make our Commander just delete somebody with Commander damage. We have Kessig Wolfrun. Now, I don't know if any of you have been at the receiving end of Kessig Wolfrun, but if you haven't, you pay X and green and red, and target creature gets XO and trample until end of turn. So we're going to swing at players 2 and 3 with all of our mana dorks, and we're going to swing at player 1 with our commander. And player 1 is going to go, okay, I'm just going to block it. And we go, okay, we tap all of our creatures and put, like, 30 mana into Kessig Wolfrun. I guess our commander's hitting you with, I don't know, 35 trample damage. Dead, it's commander damage, so I guess you're dead. I sincerely hope you enjoyed playing Magic the Gathering today. The last cards are 16 forests and 9 mountains, because we are a mostly green deck. So there is Ragadraga. The strategy is super linear, super simple, but if you want to play Unga Bunga Magic, Ragadraga lets you play Unga Bunga Magic. We are just putting out nothing but mana dorks on the board mindlessly. If they get killed, we're just playing more mana dorks. They're mana dorks. We don't care. And then we are just going to make those mana dorks either create giant X-cost spells, or they are going to swing at people for massive damage to win us the game. And we have, again, a super robust draw package of repeatable draw and things like Garruk's Pack Leader, Primordial Sage, Soul of the Harvest. If we had a little more budget in the deck, you could put even Beast Whisperer stuff in here to make the deck just smooth and run like butter, but it's going to run perfectly fine in here. Remember, the idea behind the $15 decks is that everybody should have access to strong and consistent Magic the Gathering decks when playing Commander, and the cost of those decks should not be a prohibitive factor. Ragadraga fits super well into this particular strategy. We got the deck to be $15 and 13 cents, with 8 of those pennies being Ragadraga himself. So you will be able to build this deck on a shoestring budget, and it will run and glide perfectly fine. Again, 30 of the cards in the deck are just an amalgam of mana dorks. There's not going to be a point in time where you're like, my deck doesn't have enough mana to play the big spells. Your deck is the mana to play the big spells. Go Unga Bunga, hit people with the Human Boar, smash them with his big hammer. You're gonna have a fun time. If you like seeing big numbers on a bunch of creatures, Ragadraga gives you that big number feeling. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And I'm going to be honest, thank you all for watching these videos. I really and truly appreciate it. I did not know if this project was going to bear fruit, and the longer I do it, the more it actually starts to bear fruit. So I am super thrilled about this. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for being here. Subscribe if you haven't already, and insert end of video tagline here. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability that Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here.
also like to thank each and every one of my $20 nut patrons here. They would be Red Joker, Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Nabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.